What's up, guys? Welcome back to the infamous project and another episode of an engine install, but instead we've already done Justin's 1990 Black Notch. Now we're going to move on to Chuck's 1991 GT. And if you guys watched Justin's video, or maybe Justin's video hasn't come out yet, I don't know which order or how I'm going to release these, but I am in fact wearing the same clothes. And I look the same because it's the same day. And that's right, I've actually challenged myself to try and get 2 motors installed today, 2 key motors in terms of projects that are going on here for 2024. And that way it's cleaning up a lot of room in the shop. Any of you guys that have done projects that know how much room a car takes up when it's in pieces and not all together. So by getting both these motors in their respective homes, we're going to have a lot more room and area in here to work with, and it's going to be, well, easier to drive these projects towards the finish line. All right, here we go, Chuck. So motor's coming along. Sneak peek of the snout here. There's still more to be done on that before it's ready. But we got a set of BBK long tubes here. And mostly because it's the only option that was readily available at this stage. So going to do some test fitting. Hopefully everything is good. They come with gaskets and the hardware. Does have a nice solid flange. I know Kazel isn't the biggest fan of BBK this day and age, but hopefully, let's see what we got here. Stickers. And we do have hardware in here. I almost wonder if there's enough hardware, if there's supposed to be another bag of this. It looks like it's only enough for, well, maybe it is enough for both. All right, so gonna try getting this side on, and then we'll report back. All right, so the fit's pretty good. All the hardware worked as it should. Had to do a little bit of a modification to the factory dipstick tube just to kind of give it some clearance around this one little primary here, so that way it'd slide down. It is a pet peeve of mine. People never bolt these down correctly, and it takes not that much effort to be able to get these to clamp on and work as they should onto the hardware for your header. So take that little bit of time, guys, and that way you can make sure that this guy isn't flopping around or being where it shouldn't be. And looks like we have good plug wire clearance here. And I think I might actually be changing to the Motorsport wires. I think Chuck wants a little bit more of a neat and tidy look along, kind of following the valve cover. And these live wires, they're cool, but they're bulky as hell, especially with the sleeves and everything on them. So, of course, they have their purpose, you know, anti-heat and all that other good stuff. But, you know, this is a combination of show and go. If we were just go, then we probably wouldn't care about prettying everything up the way that we have. But, yeah, so far so good. So I'll get that other side bolted up, and this motor will almost be ready to go into the car. All right, Chuck's blower has gone black, and right now I'm trying to get through all the layers of the industrial Seymour paint to try and expose the metal underneath. So it's going to take my time. See some of it starting to come out there on the end. See, I've actually just got some sandpaper wrapped around a socket. All right, guys, another day here and back on Chuck's motor. So yesterday, managed to get the blower painted up. So our snout is now bronze. The discharge is now matte black, and so is the casing. So we do not have any of this weird purpley bluish color. Now the reason why that's still there is that once this bracket is where it needs to be, then I'll deal with this probably by wrapping it. But this looks a lot better. Did the old sand off trick there and hit that with some clear coat last night. So really happy with the way that that turned out. So is Chuck. Next step, he's actually going to be ordering the EGR delete plate, which will narrow this guy down a little bit, take away from some of this bulkiness. I think he wanted this bronze. I don't know if I'm going to go to that extent. The bypass valve needs to get painted up black, which is sitting over here, so that way it can be a little bit more discreet and less in your face. And you can see here, here's the old fuel rails, and you can tell by the red anodized color hiding on the backside, but we have these now wrapped in a nice PPF carbon, which looks pretty sweet. So I'm just in the middle of putting this back together with the injectors. So I'm going to sneak that in there. We'll get the other side on, and it's pretty much going to be in a position to almost get this motor back in. Now we did a plug wire change. He opted for the Ford Racing because he actually wants to tuck them and route them nice and neat, sort of how they are in this motor. And I have to say, this does look really nice. So this is what he wants. And you know, funny enough, see how nice the font is on these wires, on these Ford Racing wires? I feel like every time I get a set from LMR, I don't know if there's actually different suppliers, but like, look at this. It's almost like it's worn off in some places. Like some are better than other, but I always feel like the wires from LMR are not as good as some of the others that you see, and I do not know why. So anyways, we will get the proper wire tie downs. We'll get the rest of this harness all plugged in and everything else. In fact, I am probably going to be removing the EGR connector altogether, or we'll just, it'll get tucked down here where nobody can see it, and that should be looking good. So let's get the rest of this together. Rails bolted on, got the wires routed. You see I actually put little retaining clips on the back here to hold the harness down and out of place, or in place rather, trying to give everything a nice clean, tidy look. All this harness has been rewrapped, and now we just got our two little salt and pepper shakers here. And again, all right, you can see salt and pepper shakers there, and the harness routed down low, and there's going to be more than enough room to kind of tuck those guys out of the way. In fact, there's actually more harness than we actually require, but I'm not going to get into shortening or cutting it down. It'll be tucked up behind the blower, and manifold and bell housing and all that other good stuff, so I'm not too concerned about that. I got all the fuel lines cut and fitted and run. You can see I've got a good amount of length over here on the passenger side, so this will be going to our main feed and to our return on the fuel pressure regulator. And these are the two here that I was talking about, that once that blower's on, like, it's maybe not impossible, but it's going to be pretty damn hard to get access to these. So got those tucked away. Got everything routed nicely here. You can see the return coming off this guy, the return in the front here, running down over here. And got a little bit of electrical tape here just to avoid, I know that the blower it's really, really close here. They had actually shaved down the valve cover a little bit. So just kind of want to make sure in case, you know, I do rock the blower on and it happens to touch down there, we're not messing up valve covers. And got to put our new gasket on. There we go. Boom. Okay. So we got that now. And I think it's time. I think it's time to commit, get the blower on. And yeah, pretty unreal. Come pretty far. This is a pretty big milestone. I know it seems like it shouldn't be because it's just whatever. It's just bolting the blower back on the motor that it came off of. But yeah, this was a pretty intricate setup, and a lot's been gone through, a lot's been touched up, a lot's been painted and updated. So let's get it on. Okay guys, this unit is no joke. No joke at all. So in Justin's car, we did a from underneath install with those style long tubes, and with the blower, actually the blower needed to come off. And it kind of worked out that way because the K-member was already out when we got the engine bay painted. Now with Chuck's car, technically the K-member was out and I have bolted the QA1 in place, but I actually want to try something. And not that this is the best car to be prototyping motor installs in on, but if this starts going sideways, I am going to abort the project. But I wanted to try one thing specific to the QA1 K-member, which has these bolt-on motor mount accepting plates. And you're going to notice that the passenger side one is on, the driver's side one is not. And the reason for that is that I'm thinking that between the steering shaft being disconnected and having this plate sitting here on the floor, I think it's actually going to give me quite a bit of room to just kind of sneak the motor on in. So you can see here, I've actually gone ahead. I removed the transmission from the bell housing, got the pressure plate mounted on the flywheel, and got the bell housing bolted on, the starters bolted on. And here's all our fuel lines that we did earlier today. And everything is pretty much good to go back here. Just curious in terms of the length. Am I going to be able to get the right swoop? I'm hoping so. You can see my custom leveler, so to speak, here. But if I have to, I can take this plate off as well. I was just thinking that if it was still on there and I can sneak things by, what would happen is that, you know, that would sort of be the guide point once I can get that first motor mount bolt through there. Then I'm thinking that once the motor is pretty close, I can go from underneath, get that guy bolted into place, and then finally rest the motor in there the way that it should be. So that's what I mean by trying out something new, and hopefully it works out. You never know. Sometimes things work, sometimes things do not, and we're gonna go for it. Gonna get the hood opened up more. I actually aired up the airbags in the front. So we got a nice little angle here for possible motor install. So fingers crossed this goes smooth, and it'd be awesome to get 2 motors in one day. And just, man, it's not even Friday, it's Thursday. So to be able to knock this out on a Thursday would allow me to maybe breathe a little bit. Maybe I'll do like an early dismissal Friday for myself, start drinking beer at 3. So anyways, guys, let's get things lined up and see if my master plan here is even gonna work. So where do I even start? Here we are, a couple days past when I got the motor in Chuck's car, and I was super pumped, super excited that I managed to get his motor in and Justin's motor in the same day. And I was editing up footage, managed to get all of Justin's video together and, you know, putting that motor in from the bottom side. And then I got to Chuck's footage where I was like, man, 2 back-to-back videos, 1 motor from underneath, 1 video from up above. And yeah, lost the footage. It's like, what do? You know, I think it's the 2nd time that I've lost some footage. And it's always the footage that you lose that you really want. Like, I can't just try and reenact. I'm not gonna pull this motor out just to show you guys how it went in. But I can do my best to try and explain it. Now, I tried doing memory disk, forensic, deep digging repair stuff, and guys, it just didn't work. Like, something happened with the GoPro, and I still remember it tried to repair the file. It said file repaired. Well, it didn't repair that whole file, and nothing else could get at it. I had stuff from before, I had stuff from after, but I didn't have all of the during. Well, guys, success. 2 motors in 1 day. And man, does that motor look real nice in there. Of course, I need the proper belt, need to get the plug wires on and start running, plugging in connectors, everything else that goes along with it. And then the challenge is going to be those intercooler pipes. I have an idea, just a matter of making everything work. So I'm going to call it for today, guys. I would say that is one hell of a successful day. And I'm gonna go home, have a beer, relax, maybe do some editing, and hopefully you guys enjoy these builds that are going on here in 2024. It's not a bad lineup. Well, this one's technically that's a late 2022, still here in the mix, but we're gonna get these all knocked out here this year, don't you worry. So until next time, we'll see you back here on the Infamous Project.